Welcome back to Whisper to the Wild One, where we hold gentle, luminous conversations for the part of you that is still wild, still curious, and still deeply worthy. I'm Susie, your therapist and guide on this journey.
And I'm Marcus, your certified life advisor. And today we're talking about something close to both of our hearts, returning to play. Because in a world that taught us to shrink, play is one of the most radical ways to reclaim our inner freedom.
And today we are so excited. We are in episode 4 of 5 for our introduction series. And our quote unquote guest today
We are
is
gonna
the
have
one and only.
the best guest ever. It took us forever to get this guy. This guy is so amazing. He was hard to get. We had to track him down. Can you go ahead and announce our next guest?
Okay, our guest is drum roll.
It's
Marcus.
me. Let's go. I am so happy to be here and to be your guest and your host. I do it all. I do it all.
And so we wanted to, make sure that we utilize this season, season one or our first 5 episodes as a way to really get you guys connected with the spirit of Whisper to the Wild One. And we will be bringing on other guests besides Marcus and myself in the near future. But I think Marcus is the perfect person to really lead us into our conversation today, which is returning to play, a conversation on just inner freedom. This is something that when I first started dating Marcus, way back when,
Back in the
we,
day.
back in the day, yeah, we, he really helped me see the more playful creative side of things. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation with him, and I just wanted to see if there's anything you wanted to add before I kind of jump into some questions for you.
I do want to add something because, like you said, I am someone who is passionate about play. Yes, and we'll get into this later about how maybe it got diminished, but one of my biggest inspirations for play is Walter Disney, because he is a dreamer and he's my inspiration for being a dreamer. And just like if you go, and we'll go into this a little bit later, but just being a dreamer is something that I've always been and I always will be. And, just it kind of ties into play. We'll get into that, but that's just kind of like a little introduction about what we're going to be talking about in a little bit.
Beautiful. And so let's just jump in with maybe the first question I have for you, which is, can you share what the word play means to you as an adult and how you connect it with inner freedom?
So the word play is all about engaging in activities that bring us joy, creativity, and freedom. It's about exploring connection, letting our imagination, and that's the thing that we lose a lot, imagination. As a kid, you could sit in a cardboard box and pretend it's a plane. You could play with a toy soldier, and in your mind, it's as real as what, the whatever down the street. It just your imagination, shows like Mr. Rogers and Reading Rainbow, those things were critical to my imagination, to my inner spirit of play. Play is a beautiful way to add a little more light and energy into life. A lot of times we, feel low energy, but that's probably because we're not engaging as play as much as we should be.
I totally agree. I think when you and I first met, I was definitely that like meme is I think it was maybe from a cartoon where they were like all work and no play. Is it Daria maybe? Like makes her like a dull girl and
Well, that was derived from the movie we watched, The Shining. So, I mean, there's been multiple reincarnations of that, but it literally started with the Jack Nicholson Shining where he went cuckoo. But yeah, all work and no play. And you've seen other people take inspiration from that. But yeah, it started with The Shining and Daria's done it. And The Simpsons have covered it. But yeah, it's all work and no play. And I know it's been made into a meme, but we do need play in our lives.
So we definitely live in a society that's, high productivity, and I don't think that, our society looks at play as a way of being productive. And so how do you try to connect play while still being productive?
That's a great question. So again, it's when you stop playing is when you have become when you momentarily have set aside a spark of joy and wonder. So you can still be productive and still engage in things that make you happy. There, you don't have to choose one or the other because there is a busyness of life. We get it. We have responsibilities. We have to get up. We have to go to work. We have to feed the dog, feed the cat, feed our fishes. We have so many things that responsibilities as adults, but it's giving yourself permission to explore, to imagine, to find joy in little moments, just the little moments. Take just in the middle of your workday, just stop. Look outside and look at the trees. I know it sounds, maybe it sounds silly, but that's okay. That's what play is. Be a little silly. Just take a moment and just break the monotony of your routine, and you could still be productive and still play at the same time. Like get that gentle journey back of the inner light, letting yourself laugh, create, and connect into the world that makes you feel free and full of wonder.
Yeah. Is there a time in your life when you realized that you had stopped playing? And what did you do to try to reclaim that?
Answer your question. The moment I stopped playing, I can remember it like it was yesterday when I felt the play leave. As you know, I told you I was in a band, track nine, shout out Shane, my brother. We were in a band and me and Shane had this conversation. Were we had just come off of a great show over down the street. We had over hundreds of people cheering our names, and it was just the most energetic, lively moment that I've experienced in my musical career. And then after that, we had obviously we're all young teenagers where we had, one of the members in the band didn't want to be in the band no more. So the band broke up. But instead of trying to, saying, okay, well, let's just get another, drummer, we just all said, well, we're just gonna just give up. So that really crushed me. I probably went into a deep depression for the next 5, 6 months where my best friend at the time like called me and then my mom's like, "Hey, do you want to talk to him?" And I didn't even say, "No, don't tell him I'm here." I just told her, "No, tell him I don't want to talk to him." And because my play had been crushed because like at that moment, my world, that band breaking up was my whole world, my whole play. And I get it. We could have joined another band, but in that real moment that I stopped playing, I didn't feel like myself. And it was very, really eye-opening looking back at that because I was able to gather myself. We did get a reunion for track nine. A decade later, but still, it was a massive success. Like the same amount of people came out. People were coming up to me saying, "Hey, Marcus, you did a great job." And that was the moment when I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up on my dream. I'm not going to give up on my play. But yeah, stop playing. It definitely can take a toll out of you. It definitely can make you feel like you're not yourself. You feel lethargic, tired, you can go into depression. But just know that even in that moment, if you're feeling that, don't give up because as long as you have that spark, that whisper, then the play will always be there.
What really stands out to me from that is just not letting someone else kind of control your play, right? So you're like, oh, this guy left the band and we're feeling so down. What are we going to do? This isn't even worth it anymore. And so, really allowing other people in kind of that Mel Robbins stance, like let them leave the band, but let me make sure that I continue to play, that I continue to be a part of something that makes me extremely happy. And you said you were able to eventually reclaim that for yourself, but taking the opportunity and really seizing it for yourself.
To quote one of my favorite plays, and this is not part of the musical Muse, we'll get there, but I'm going to add a bonus musical Muse. The play Hamilton, Aaron Burr sings a song, Wait For It. And one of the lyrics is, I am the one thing in life I can control. And it's true, you can't control what others around you do, but you can control what you do, your actions, and you can control how you react to other people. Like Susie said, let them, which is a whole it's a whole movement. If someone's gonna do something that's upsets you, let them. They have no control over what you do. You can control how you react to that, but let them.
Absolutely. So I appreciate that so much. And, when you were thinking about how you tried to reclaim yourself after that band experience, how did you stay connected? Or do you see a connection between play and healing that you maybe experienced, whether it was in that moment or a different moment?
So encouraging it, the connection is encouraging myself to stay playful and connected to my wild side. I took a moment to do something a little bit different. I kind of joined up with a few friends and we did some like nature hikes. I wasn't in the middle of the woods, naked, chanting anything weird. It wasn't anything like that.
Oh dear, let's not do those types of
No,
rituals. I mean, if
it
it's their
wasn't one of
play.
it wasn't a weird nature. It was just a regular hike, we had our clothes on. But it was really just taking in that nature experience, listening to the birds. You know what it was? It was pausing the noise of everything around,
Mm.
which is, hey, why aren't you doing this? Hey, what are you doing with your life? Why aren't we in another band? But when you're in the middle of nature, everything stops. And there's when everything is silent is actually when you can hear your play. You can reconnect to that, right? You can reconnect to your curiosity, roam free, you know. Look at the clouds, there's a bit on The Simpsons where there's it's an episode where two of the guards are guarding Mayor Quimby, and then they're just looking at the clouds. Have you ever seen a cloud that isn't fluffy and gorgeous? And the other guy's like, if there is, I don't want to know. And it's true. Just looking at the clouds is just something, play a little game where you're like, what does that cloud look like? Or just stare and take in nature because we don't do that. Again, our society is like task oriented. If we're not busy, we're not being productive. But you know what? It's okay to pause and then still resume our activities. Uh, and again, being connected is also, we want to create a safe, judgment-free space where we can laugh and experiment and just be ourselves. So that is the key to being connected and being wild and keeping that playful spirit alive.
You said something that is so relevant to the society that we live in, which is it's loud out there. There's so much noise. It taps into that productivity mindset. And so, tapping into play is just a great way to connect not only with your internal self, I think, but also making sure that you are listening to yourself and, like you said, drowning out the noise. And so I think it would be a great moment to pause in our discussion today and pause from the back and forth question and answer. But thank you so much, Marcus. You've been doing an amazing job already in talking to us about play. And we know that music is obviously your play option.
Yeah.
So why don't you tap into the musical
Bum,
Muse?
bum, bum, the best segment of our podcast, at least in my opinion. But yeah, so there's this artist called NEFFEX. Check him out. It's NEFFEX. And this song is called Things Are Gonna Get Better. Now, again, we're gonna try to play this on our podcast, and if it doesn't get strike down, we'll play a little bit. But essentially, the song talks about someone telling you what they want you to do. And it's like, and one of the lyrics says, don't make me feel bad about picking your lane. Like, oh, you chose to give up on your dream, but that's not me. When I was a kid, they told me I can do anything I wanted to do, but then they take your future and they try to make it safe, right? They want to make it safe, but not for because they get scared that you took that risk and they're like, wait, no, what happened to the sky was the limit, essentially. Like, I'm not giving up on my dreams. So, it's just saying like you can feel down, you can feel like you haven't played, but like I said earlier, don't give up. Things are gonna get better. Check out the song and don't let anyone make your future feel safe. Don't, if someone's trying to step out of their lane to put you in their lane, no, just you choose your path, you choose your passion, and keep going because things are going to get better real soon.
I love it. And yes, I think everyone on our listeners, our wild ones out there, they are loving your musical muse tap in. And so great conversation. Again, we're going to try to slip it in there, but if all of a sudden you hear no audio, that may be because of copyright issues. But for those who are still wanting to hear the songs that Marcus is talking about, you can also check on our Instagram, which is your underscore luminous underscore self. And we will be posting little clips to Spotify on there. And if you are a listener on YouTube, we will be linking them in the show notes so that you can always tap in and hear these songs as well. So that's just our little plug for the musical
Ba, ba, ba,
muse.
ba. And if you guys have any suggestions about some like musical muses, even if you're not going to be a guest on our show, but just songs that inspire your play, your wild one, let us know. We'll talk about it, and if we can figure it out where we can play it, we'll discuss it. We want you to engage. We want you to tell us what music makes you feel passionate, or you can even say, "Hey, Wild Ones, we listened to that song, and it did help me here, or it made this more clear here." Like, so engage, let us know what you're thinking about these songs on the chat, on our website, on the comments. We want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. So let's jump back in. And I wanted to take a moment. You've been so wonderful in answering so many of the questions
I
that
am
I've put
wonderful.
before you.
I am very wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yes, yes. Meet Marcus, everyone, our humble co-host on this podcast. But do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I actually have one really important question for you because again, you were the person that maybe your play did get a little bit muted. So I'd want to ask you, in your work, how have you seen play help others move through grief, trauma, and creative blocks? And maybe in your personal life too.
Ooh, so for those of you who may not know, I am kind of a designated grief specialist. I did work in hospice for 7 years and obviously went through my own grief experiences. And so everyone in my family, I think endearingly refers to me as the Grim Reaper, but nonetheless, I'm not here to take anyone's souls or lives, but I do help people through that kind of traumatic experience. And so, one of the things that we do in hospice and helping people through grief is trying to find rituals, which can sometimes be rituals of play or fun. So many of our clients would talk about things they would used to do with their loved ones. I used to go pick apples at Glen Helen. Or not Glen Helen, is it Glen Oaks? I think Glen Oaks here in California.
Yeah.
Glen Ivy, I think, is a hot spring, but maybe you went to hot springs with your loved one or with a good friend, right? And so a lot of times people will want to avoid those memories, avoid those activities because they're almost afraid to have fun without their loved one, without their person. And so one way that we try to help people move through grief or trauma is how do we expose them back to those activities? And so for me, one of those activities or one of the things that we would always do that was fun for my family was we were big Tommy's chili burger people.
Yeah.
So, for a while I really didn't want Tommy's. I was like, this is just going to remind me of my family and not having them with me. And so now, Marcus and I, on certain holidays or birthdays or special events for my parents who are now passed, we'll go to Tommy's and we'll have a burger and we'll just share in jokes and conversation, kind of putting the phones away and really connecting together. So it's just a way to tap in. And sometimes when we tap into those activities that we were avoiding because of the grief, we can find our creative flow again. And that is what I hope for all people who are going through grief or trauma is that you take your time. There may be some avoidance in activities or thoughts or places, but if that is where you used to connect and find your creative flow with your person, start to try to go towards some exposure. Try to give yourself opportunities to tap in again.
I love what you said there, and I actually want to add to that also too, because there are different rituals that you can do in addition to that. You know, you can do some yoga. There's this big new movement of puppy yoga. Now they have cat yoga where you do yoga for a little bit and then they just release the puppies and you're just there engaging in just scratches and puppy kisses and you can do free form writing, write a journal down where you're just jotting down your ideas of things maybe you wanted to do when you were younger and you just didn't get to them, or goals and dreams, write them down. You know, just spending more time doing something silly and unconstructed that can help keep things playful and that wild spirit alive and thriving.
Absolutely. I love that we always bring it back to how do we tap into our wild self with play. And so, with that, I'm curious, is there ever a time when someone can be too old to play?
The answer is no. You're never too old to start to play. I can go again back to Walt Disney. He was younger when he started, but he was failing so many times that he wasn't until he started Disneyland. He was a bit older. Stan Lee was in his late 40s when he took off in his comics. Rodney Dangerfield didn't get started until his late 40s, early 50s. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Recently, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. To the last day on his earth, he's like, I'm going to perform because that's what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to, engage in his wild one. He wanted to engage in playing. So if you ever doubt yourself to where you think, well, will I look silly? No, you're not going to look silly if you're feeling a bit older to be, because guess what? There's beauty and freedom in allowing yourself to look silly sometimes. It's in these moments that we often find ourselves our truest joy and authenticity. Play is all about letting go of judgment. So, you know what? Let them. You want to judge me? Let them. You know, when we embrace that playful spirit, we open up our space for joy and creativity and connection. So that's what really being play is about, whether you are, 8 years old or 80 years old, doesn't matter. So let yourself be silly, have fun with it. And, and know that in doing so, you're going to be celebrating your true luminous self.
I'm so glad you said that because, it's really powerful to some of our listeners who range in age, honestly, and trying to remind them that you're not too old to play. We're not too old to go to pop-up events or go to Disneyland, or heck, if you're on someone's level like Ozzy Osbourne, rest in peace. He made his own throne to be on stage and play one last time. And that type of power, that type of commitment to your inner wild self, the things that keep you going is honestly invaluable, and no one can take that away.
That is so true. Again, being playful, it means being authentic. And sometimes we lose our authentic selves because we want to sometimes people please. We want to sometimes do what other people want. So, one of the ways that we can kind of counteract that would be to have a positive community that helps us play and return to play. So, because community is it's like a warm, inviting circle, a non-judgmental circle that helps us. Because again, when you're doing it by yourself, you could feel alone. You could feel like, oh, well, I don't want to feel, I don't want to, do this by myself. Don't, engage in that community. When we join others in playful activities, we actually create a space where laughter and joy are shared and encouraged. That in collective energy, it makes it easier for to let go of our inhibitions and rediscover the freedom of play. So no, it reminds us we're not alone. There's other people out there that are maybe struggling like you, but then it is awesome to have that support system, to be encouraged, to be playful and authentic. So just remember, if you are struggling to do it by yourself, get that community to help you build your play and to help charge your wild one and make that whisper into a shout.
Ooh, a whisper into a shout. That's so powerful. Thank you so much. And one thing that I try and what we were hoping for this podcast is that, we can leave each week, leave something to our listeners, try to get them to partake in a challenge or an intention setting. And, we spoke about it several times in this podcast. Finding playful energy in a busy world can be difficult. So, if our listeners could do one small thing today to reconnect with their inner freedom through play, what would you invite them to try?
So one step as a life coach that I like to do is I like to encourage my clients to build a small but intentional pause into your day, even if it's for a minute or two, just a breather reset. So leave put a playful reminder on your phone just because again, we're so entwined into, being the next task. And if I don't do something, I'm not going to be, productive. But, put that reminder in your phone to take that intentional, uh, mindful pause and then just engage in an activity that will bring you joy, whether it's listening to a song that makes you smile, or just take a piece of paper and draw a silly picture, just something like that where you haven't done it in a while. So just take that intentional pause, put that reminder in your phone, and just see how that works. And let it just kind of resonate and then do that the next week, and then maybe you find yourself doing it on a daily routine, and the next thing you know, your play has been restored little at a time.
Well, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I think for a lot of our listeners out there, we have heard your requests for our follow-up podcast, and it may have been that we underestimated just the amount of work that a podcast would take, but we are still fully committed. And we were totally tapping into some play this last few weekends. It's rare that in our busy society people get 2 whole days off, and so we were definitely engaging in play, but nonetheless, it prepared us for this beautiful conversation. And I feel lighter already that we talked and that we're encouraging our listeners to find that moment of play. Sometimes for me, it's putting on my headphones and dancing super silly around the living room in between clients just to tap in and re-engage and re-energize. And so please remember, wild ones, that play isn't just a luxury, it's a language our wild self speaks, and we have to let it speak. We can't mute this any longer.
And I also want to take this moment for as the host to thank the guests, our awesome guests, which is me. And I'm going to take the Snoop Dogg moment to say I'd like to thank me for doing an amazing job today and answering all the questions in an amazing way. So thank me, and I did amazing. And you know what? I give myself a big round of applause. Thank me.
Yay. Thank thank me. You know what? We do thank you, and I think that, that Snoop Dogg meme, if you guys haven't seen it, please go find it. It's actually inspirational because we seek so much of our validation externally. But you know what? Dear Marcus, dear Snoop Dogg, recognize your own work. Recognize when you're showing up in joy and curiosity and vulnerability, and let's all thank ourselves wild ones.
I agree completely. So we just want to leave you with just intentional. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for your patience as we go through this journey together. We're going to start building on the podcast. Did you want to announce the big change that we're going to be having starting with our next podcast?
Everyone, we are so excited. Episode 5 is going to be our last audio session, and we are excited to round out our introductory series slash season. And starting with episode 6, we are not only going to be bringing on guest speakers, but we are also going to be showing our YouTube people our faces,
You
which
lucky you
means
guys.
I know, lucky you. Hopefully, it'll be on a wonderful day where we were not only playing, but also taking care of ourselves, showering, looking all spiffy for our YouTube viewers.
Wait, I got to
And,
shower. They can't smell us. I mean, I guess.
it's all about appearance, though. Sometimes we can smell things when we look at them, right?
I
Everyone
don't
can look at an onion and know what it smells like.
I don't want to look like Pigpen from the Peanuts. That's a older reference to our younger people. If you don't know what Pigpen is, Google Pigpen Peanuts. Don't be a Pigpen. Shower.
Don't be a pig pen, but nonetheless, we are excited to show you our faces, show you how we laugh through these segments, and with that, we'll probably include some bloopers at some point. And for those of you who are just wanting to listen while you still drive, Don't worry, we are still going to be on all the major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Podbean, and Apple Podcasts. So all of those are there for you guys. But nonetheless, we just want to invite you to try to find one small way to play this week, whether it's joking with our friends, our family, your partners, thinking about Pigpen, or I don't
Go
know,
for
doing some.
go
What was
for a
that?
hike. Oh, I said go for a hike, but keep your clothes on. Just don't end up in the woods naked with a, fire burning, chanting some weird language. I mean,
And if that is your play and that is your wild self, we invite you to do that.
that's true.
Take precautions, be safe, wear bug spray. Hopefully, you can find a way to tap in. And we just are thankful for all of you wild ones out there.
And as we always close out, we want to say, welcome home, wild ones.
Welcome home.
Thank you for joining us on Whisper to the Wild One. If today's conversation spoke to your spirit, we'd love for you to share, like, subscribe, and leave a review. To stay connected, visit us at www.luminous-self.com.
Or follow us on Instagram at your_luminous_self.
Or reach out directly at contact@luminous-self.com.
This podcast has been a Luminous Self production. Until next time, may you continue to listen to the whispers within.